I saw my husband today, 6 months after I buried him. He was standing in line at a grocery store, alive, breathing, casual, like death had never touched him. His voice, his smile, even the small scar on his left hand, the one from when he cut himself fixing our kitchen sink. It was all there, identical. I froze, gripping my shopping cart so hard my knuckles turned white. I thought I was losing my mind. But I followed him, and what I discovered next left me paralyzed. Before I begin, tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. And if stories like this stay with you, please like and subscribe. It really helps me continue sharing the truths I've carried for years. Let me take you back to the life I had before everything cracked open. My name is Claire. I'm 34 now, but when this started, I was 32, freshly widowed, stumbling through a world that felt suddenly too silent. My husband, Daniel, died in what everyone called a tragic accident. That phrase still feels bitter in my mouth. We had been married for 7 years, and in all that time, I believed we were happy. Ordinary, maybe. Predictable, but safe. People envied us. People said things like, "You two fit perfectly," and "You're so lucky to have a man like him." And for years, I agreed. The funeral was closed casket. The official explanation was that the accident mangled him too badly. I didn't argue. I was numb, fragile, drowning. Papers were signed, ashes were given, condolences piled up. We buried an urn beside his family plot. I remember pressing my hand against the cold stone and whispering, "I don't know how to live without you." Then months passed. Grief became routine. I learned which aisles to avoid in stores so I wouldn't cry. Cereal he liked, coffee he brewed. I slept on my side of the bed only, as if the empty space preserved him somehow. That day, the day everything snapped, was ordinary. Rainy. I had gone to the store for milk. My hair wasn't even brushed properly. I didn't expect the universe to tear open in front of me. He was just there, in the checkout line, holding apples, wearing a jacket I donated after the funeral. He laughed at something the cashier said. That laugh, I felt it in my bones. A sound you don't forget when you've shared a life with someone. I whispered to myself, "This isn't real." But then he turned his head slightly, and I saw the scar, the exact shape, the exact place. One thought hit me like a truck. If that's not Daniel, then who is he? And if it is Daniel, why did he let me think he was dead? He's alive. I buried him. Both truths couldn't exist, and yet they did. I didn't plan anything. I just moved, slowly, careful not to lose sight of him. I abandoned my cart and followed, heart pounding so loud I feared others would hear it. He walked out into the rain, grocery bag swinging casually. I kept my distance, repeating a single sentence in my head like a broken record. "Please look back. Please prove me wrong." He didn't look back. He walked 3 blocks, turned onto a street I never knew, and entered a small house with blue shutters. He used a key, like he belonged there, like he lived there. My husband, or the man wearing his face, disappeared inside. Light came on in the living room. A shadow moved. I stood across the street in the rain, soaked, shaking, unable to breathe. Because I realized something terrifying. If I knocked on that door, everything I believed about my life might shatter. And at that moment, I wasn't sure I was ready for the truth. But eventually, curiosity wins over fear. Every time. And the next day, I came back. The next morning, I woke up feeling like the world had shifted an inch to the left. Everything familiar, yet wrong. I barely slept. I kept replaying what I saw over and over, searching for another explanation. A lookalike, a dream, a hallucination brought on by grief. Something sane. But every time I saw his face in my mind, I knew the truth my heart refused to ignore. I made coffee the way Daniel used to. 2 sugars, splash of cream, slow stir. The spoon clinked against the mug like it always did when he'd hum behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. Except there was no hum, no arms, just me, alone at the kitchen counter with a ghost I saw buying apples yesterday. I tried to tell myself not to go back to that house, Let it go, I whispered. But another voice answered, if he's alive, you deserve to know why he left you to grieve him. That line kept looping. Left me, not lost me. Left me. By noon, I grabbed my keys and drove to that street, telling myself I was just curious, not obsessed. The house looked ordinary in daylight. Blue shutters, cracked driveway, a small maple tree in the yard. A wind chime tinkled lazily by the door. Peaceful. Too peaceful for something so unreal. I parked around the corner and watched. Hours passed. A woman appeared, mid-30s, brunette, carrying 2 grocery bags. She unlocked the same front door. My heart lurched painfully. She had a key too. Who was she? Wife? Girlfriend? Stranger? Did she know she was living with a man who was supposed to be dead? A thought crept in like poison. Had he left me for her? Faked his death to be with her? It sounded ridiculous, dramatic, something from a soap opera. But grief makes your brain dangerous. I stayed until dusk, nerves stretched thin. The curtains glowed warm from inside. I thought I saw movement, silhouettes of 2 people passing each other. Maybe talking, maybe laughing. 7 years of marriage flashed in my mind. Sunday pancakes. Road trips to nowhere. The way he tucked my hair behind my ear when I cried. Was any of it real? I went home shaking. The house felt colder than usual, like it sensed betrayal too. I wandered room to room, touching furniture as if to anchor myself to something solid. The framed wedding photo on the mantel caught my eye. A smiling, young, hopeful. I pressed my thumb over his face and whispered, why? The next days blurred. Every morning I drove back to that blue shutter house. I watched him leave in a car I'd never seen before. Walk to work somewhere I couldn't follow without blowing my cover. He looked healthy, happy, alive. Meanwhile, I was crumbling. Friends said things like, you look tired, and are you eating? I lied. Small lies, harmless on the surface. I'm fine. Just busy. But inside, suspicion grew like mold. One night, I opened Daniel's old toolbox, something I hadn't touched since the funeral. I found an envelope wedged beneath the tray. My breath stopped. My hands trembled as I slid it open. Inside were documents I didn't recognize. A bank statement from an account I never knew existed. And a photo, Daniel standing beside the same brunette woman, laughing. My chest tightened so hard I thought I'd faint. The date in the corner was from 3 months before his death. That was the first time I said it out loud, shakily, to the empty room. He lied to me. And I didn't know it then, but that envelope was just the first crack in a wall hiding much darker secrets. Tomorrow, I decided I wouldn't just watch that house. I would get closer. The next morning, something in me hardened. Grief had been a fog for 6 months, but now anger was beginning to burn through it. I dressed differently, pulling on a hoodie, tying my hair back tight. I didn't want to be recognized, not yet. I didn't even know what my end goal was. Closure? Confrontation? Revenge? My heart didn't know. It only knew I needed answers. I parked farther down the street this time, close enough to see clearly but far enough to blend in. The house looked so normal in the morning light. Birds chirped. A sprinkler hissed rhythmically across the lawn. It felt cruel that nature kept moving forward while my world had frozen. Around 9:15, the door opened. Daniel, or the man who shouldn't exist, stepped out wearing a jacket I once bought him for his birthday. My breath stuttered. Every detail was him. The way he rubbed the back of his neck. The slight limp in his left foot from an old soccer injury. His posture, his stride, his casual little half-smile at nothing. Not a look-alike. Not a coincidence. My husband. Alive. Living another life. He walked to his car, but before he got in, the brunette woman stepped out to kiss him goodbye. A quick, familiar peck. Routine. My stomach twisted painfully. I watched his hand slide to her waist with casual intimacy. I was replaced. I was forgotten. Those 2 sentences stabbed hard. As he drove off, I did something reckless. I got out of my car and walked up to the house. Just walked, not thinking, just moving. I rang the doorbell. My heart hammered so loud I could barely hear the chime. Footsteps. Then the door opened. She stood there, the woman from the photo. Close enough now for me to see her clearly. Brown eyes, soft face, no suspicion at first. She smiled politely, like I was a neighbor. I almost said her name, though I didn't know it. My voice shook. Hi. Sorry. My car broke down a street over. Could I use your phone? A lie. Small, harmless, but it tasted bitter. She hesitated only a second before nodding. Sure, come in. Her kindness cut deeper than hostility would have. I stepped inside. The house was warm, lived in. 2 coffee mugs sat on the kitchen counter, one with lipstick, one without. A jacket hung on the chair I recognized as Daniel's. The same faint smell of pine cologne drifted through the air. It was like stepping into a parallel universe where I never existed. She handed me her phone. My fingers shook so much I forced myself to steady them. Thank you, I murmured. I pretended to dial a number while my eyes scanned the room. Family photos lined a shelf. My blood ran cold when I spotted one. Daniel. Huh. A little boy between them, maybe 5 or 6 years old. My throat closed. A child. His child. And suddenly a brutal thought tore through me. Maybe he didn't just replace me. Maybe I was the other woman, and I never knew. The woman leaned forward, concern in her eyes. Are you okay? You look pale. I swallowed hard. Just dizzy. Thank you. I handed back her phone, forcing a tight smile. She gave me a sympathetic nod. Sit if you need, she offered. My husband just left for work. He'll be back later. Husband. She said husband. Lightning shot through my spine. Her husband. Then who was my husband? I left before my mask cracked, thanking her again, stepping out into the cold air with legs that barely held me. By the time I reached my car, my hands were shaking so violently I could barely fit the key into the ignition. I sat there for a long time, breathing in sharp, uneven gulps. A child, a wife, a life built without me. The truth was no longer avoidable. Daniel didn't die. He disappeared. And now I had proof that he wasn't just alive. He was thriving in a life that seemed to never include me at all. But that wasn't the worst part. Not even close. I didn't go home right away. I drove instead, aimlessly, until the sky turned gray and rain began tapping against the windshield. My thoughts were a tangled mess, betrayal, confusion, grief resurrected like a fresh wound. I kept seeing the photo. Their family photo. The little boy's smile. Daniel's hand resting proudly on his shoulder. 7 years of marriage, and he had a son I never knew about. How long was he living this double life? Was I ever really his wife? Questions spiraled and no answers came. That night, after pacing my house like a trapped animal, I pulled out everything of Daniel's that I had boxed away. Letters, old bank statements, his laptop, dead, dusty, still smelling faintly like him. I charged it, hoping maybe there'd be something to explain. It opened without a password. He never believed in keeping secrets. Or maybe that was part of the lie too. Most files were normal, boring even. Taxes, work documents. But one folder caught my eye, tucked deep inside, mislabeled under receipts _2018. When I clicked it, it wasn't receipts. It was photos, hundreds of them. Daniel with 2 lives. Some with me, vacations, anniversaries, goofy selfies on the couch. But others, hidden ones, were with her. The brunette woman. And the child. Pictures in parks, birthday parties, smiling in living rooms I'd never seen. One image in particular made my stomach drop, Daniel holding the boy as a baby. The timestamp was from 6 years ago, a year before we got married. He had a family first, and I was the second life. I covered my mouth, tears burning hot and relentless. I scrolled further, heartbreaking with each click. A video thumbnail stopped me cold. Daniel sitting beside her on a couch, arms wrapped around each other. I pressed play. His voice filled the room like a ghost returned. We'll tell her soon, he said. The woman leaned her head on his shoulder. I don't want to hurt her. He sighed. She deserves the truth. but I need time. Claire loves me. Hearing my name ripped something inside me. They knew. They knew about me. I wasn't an accident in his life. I was a secret. He continued, voice soft, conflicted. I'll figure a way out, I promise. A way out? Out of our marriage? Or out of both? The clip ended abruptly, but my world didn't stop spinning. I slammed the laptop shut and curled on the floor, the weight of betrayal pressing down like a mountain. He planned to leave. He planned to disappear. And somehow, he did. But the biggest question clawed through the chaos. Why fake a death? Why not just walk away? Insurance money? Debt? Criminal trouble? Or something darker? Something I hadn't uncovered yet. I needed answers. Desperately. And grief turned fully into rage. The next morning, I drove to the Blue Shutter house again, this time with purpose. I watched as the woman left with the little boy, probably taking him to school. Daniel was still inside. I waited in my car for over an hour, hands trembling, rehearsing words I knew I wouldn't say right. Then something happened. A man I'd never seen walked up the driveway and knocked. Daniel answered. They exchanged quick, hushed words. The stranger handed him an envelope, thick, official looking. My eyes locked onto it. Documents, papers, something important. I leaned forward, blood roaring in my ears. Daniel's expression shifted, tense, serious, not the calm, gentle man I remembered. He tucked the envelope inside his jacket and scanned the street like he was expecting someone to follow him. For a split second, his eyes brushed my direction. I ducked so fast I hit my head on the steering wheel. He didn't see me, I think. The man left quickly. Daniel shut the door, blinds snapped shut. My heart pounded a warning I didn't yet understand. Whatever was in that envelope wasn't ordinary. And for the first time, a terrifying possibility formed. Maybe Daniel didn't fake his death to be with her. Maybe he faked it to escape something far worse. I didn't know it then, but chasing the truth would drag me into a place far darker than heartbreak. And I wasn't ready for what I'd find next. That evening, I sat alone at my kitchen table, laptop open, fingers shaking above the keyboard. I wasn't grieving anymore. I was planning. Every emotion inside me had settled into one cold, steady truth. If Daniel had secrets, I would dig until I found every one. I listed everything I knew so far, like a detective sorting evidence. Daniel is alive. He has a wife and child. He had a second family before me. He planned to find a way out. A stranger brought him an envelope. His hiding something bigger than betrayal. Seeing it written made it real. And something inside me hardened further. I opened the photos again, not to torture myself, but to look deeper. Details I missed before stood out now. In one picture, Daniel wore a necklace I'd never seen. In another, he stood beside a black SUV with unfamiliar plates. In the video, the background wall had a diploma hanging behind them, not his, but hers. A name on it, Elena Crawford. Suddenly I had more than guesses. I had leads. I spoke aloud, voice steady in the quiet kitchen. He built 2 lives. Now I'll dismantle both. Not out of cruelty, but for the truth. For closure. For myself. The next day, I prepared. I wasn't going to confront him recklessly. I needed information first. I bought a basic phone with a new number, a cheap camera, a notepad, tools for watching, waiting, catching lies in the act. Every night, I returned to the Blue Shutter house. I learned their routines. When Elena left for work, when the child went to school, what time Daniel returned. I kept logs, like a case file. Patterns formed. And with every note I scribbled, anger grew into something sharper, resolve. But beneath that resolve, grief still throbbed, a dull ache I carried quietly. I'd lie in bed at night staring at the ceiling, wondering how many moments I cherished alone while he shared others somewhere else. I wondered if he ever thought of me, missed me, loved me at all. Some nights I cried, others I couldn't. Emotions became weather, unpredictable, sometimes violent. But one thought brought me calm. I desired the truth. One afternoon, while following from a distance, I saw Daniel meet the same stranger again, this time in a parking lot behind an office building. They argued. I couldn't hear, but I read tension in their shoulders. The envelope changed hands once more. My instinct sharpened. This wasn't about romance or lies. This was business. Money. Maybe danger. I took photos from the car window, zoom shaky but clear enough. The stranger had a tattoo on his wrist, a serpent wrapped around a dagger. Distinct. Memorable. The kind you don't get by accident. When I got home that night, I searched online. Serpent dagger tattoo gang symbol, organized crime symbol, smuggling symbol. Results appeared. My heart pounded faster with each click. Daniel wasn't just living a double life. He was involved in something illegal. All at once, everything fit horribly together. The staged accident, the hidden bank account, the thick envelope, the secrecy. Maybe he hadn't faked his death for love. Maybe he ran to escape criminals. Or maybe he was one of them. I sat back, exhaled shakily. I was no longer looking at a cheating husband. I was looking at a man running from something dark. Which meant if I got too close, I wasn't just risking heartbreak. I might be risking my life. But instead of scaring me away, it lit something fierce within me. Fear sharpened me. Pain focused me. And I made my decision that night, the one that changed everything. Tomorrow, I would approach Daniel, face to face, not as a grieving widow, not as a broken wife, but as a woman who deserved the truth, every last piece of it. The next morning, my hands barely trembled. Rage had burned away the weakness. I dressed plainly, tied my hair back, no makeup. I wanted him to see me as I was, not a memory, not a ghost. A woman who crawled out of grief stronger. I parked near the Blue Shutter House before sunrise. The street was quiet, dew glistening on lawns, the world still half asleep. I waited, watched, heart tight but determined. At 8:10 a.m., Daniel stepped outside, locking the door behind him. He walked down the driveway, same casual pace, same half smile, like he hadn't destroyed my life. I opened my car door and stepped out. Daniel. His body froze. Slowly, he turned toward me. For a moment, silence. Shock widened his eyes. Real, unmistakable shock. His face drained of color. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. Maybe he had. I stepped closer, voice cold and steady. You're alive. He didn't speak, didn't move, just stared at me like time had stopped. Then he whispered, hoarse, Claire. Hearing my name from his mouth again hurt like a punch. I swallowed it and kept walking until I stood right in front of him, close enough to see the scar on his hand, close enough to smell that same pine cologne I once loved. I buried you. He opened his mouth, but I didn't let him speak. I cried over an empty coffin. I slept beside your urn. I grieved you every damn day. His breath shook. You weren't supposed to find me. The words hit like fire. He stepped back toward the door. Instinct, fear. I stepped forward to block his path. No, you don't run now. He looked around nervously, lowering his voice. You don't understand. I did it to protect you. A bitter laugh escaped me. Protect me? From what? Your other family. Pain flickered in his eyes. He rubbed his temple like he was drowning in words he didn't know how to speak. I was in trouble, Claire. Deep trouble. They came after me once. I knew they'd come again. If they knew you existed. I cut him off sharply. You had a wife, a son, before me. He froze again. You knew, I hissed. You let me marry you anyway. He whispered, I loved you. I spit out 2 words like venom. Then why leave me to die inside? He swallowed hard. I didn't mean to hurt you. I wanted to leave quietly. Start over. But then they threatened Elena and our son. I had to make a choice. Disappear. Fake the accident. It was the only way. I stared at him, shaking with disbelief. So you let me suffer. You let me mourn you like a fool. He stepped closer, voice breaking. If you believed I was dead, you were safe. Safe. The word tasted like ash. I looked him dead in the eyes. You should have trusted me. Before he could answer, a car screeched around the corner. Black SUV. The same one from the photos. Windows down. A voice shouted, "There, that's him." Daniel's face turned white. He grabbed my wrist, tight. "We need to go. Now." I yanked my arm free. "You don't get to drag me into this." But it was too late. Two men jumped out of the SUV, rushing toward us. Tattoos visible, serpent and dagger. My heart slammed against my ribs. Daniel pushed me behind him. "Clay, run." For a split second, time slowed. His body tense, their footsteps pounding on asphalt. My breath sharp and cold. And then chaos erupted. Daniel threw a punch. Wild, desperate. One man stumbled. The other lunged, grabbing Daniel by the collar. They struggled, fists flying, grunts tearing through the quiet street. I did the only thing instinct allowed. I picked up a garden stone and swung. It connected with a crack. The man screamed, clutching his face. Daniel grabbed my hand, this time not to control me, but to flee. We ran. Down the street. Around the corner. Hearts racing, lungs burning. The sub's engine roared behind us. I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know if we'd survive. All I knew was this. My dead husband was alive. My life was a lie. And now I was running straight into the truth. We didn't stop running until we reached the edge of an abandoned industrial lot. Rusted fences, broken windows, weeds clawing through cracked pavement, a forgotten place for forgotten truths. Daniel leaned against a wall, panting, one hand pressed to a cut on his cheek. I kept my distance, breathing hard, pulse still pounding from adrenaline and betrayal. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Words felt too fragile for what we'd just survived. Finally, I broke the silence. "You were going to let me live the rest of my life believing you were dead." He looked down. Shame carved deep lines in his face. "I thought disappearing was mercy. I thought you'd heal. Find someone better. Someone safe." Anger flayed, but it was tired now, worn like old fabric. "You didn't give me a choice. You stole my goodbye." The weight of those words hung heavy between us. Daniel rubbed his injured knuckles, voice low. "They are hunting me because I stole from them. Money, a lot of it. I thought I could pay for a clean start. Elena and the boy, they didn't know the worst of it. I didn't want you anywhere near that world." I stayed at him, truly stayed, seeing not the man I loved but a stranger wearing his face. A man who thought his lies were love. A man who could vanish without thinking how it would break me. And now? I asked quietly. He exhaled shakily. "Now I have nothing left except the truth you chased down yourself." The truth. The brutal, messy, human truth. Not romantic. Not heroic. Just flawed. I sat down on a crumbling concrete step, the cold seeping through my jeans. "So what do you want from me, Daniel? Forgiveness? Sympathy? Should I run away with you into whatever mess this is?" He stepped closer, careful, like approaching a wounded animal. "No, I want you to live, really live, without waiting for ghosts." I swallowed the lump in my throat. The wind blew debris across the lot, carrying memories I hadn't asked for. Wedding vows whispered under fairy lights, Sunday mornings tangled in sheets, laughter that once felt like forever. But now forever looked different. "I loved you," I said softly, not as accusation but as farewell. "I loved you too," he whispered. And for the first time, I believed him, but love wasn't enough anymore. Sirens echoed faintly in the distance, police responding, or the gang returning. We didn't know. Daniel glanced toward the sound, shoulders tense. "You should go home," he urged. "Go before they realize you're connected to me." I stood slowly. My legs felt steadier than they had in months. "What about you?" He managed a sad smile. "I'll keep running. It's what I'm good at." I almost reached for him, habit, muscle memory, but stopped. Some touches are meant for ghosts, not the living. Instead, I nodded, a silent goodbye, and then I walked away. I didn't look back, though I felt his eyes following me until distance turned us into two different worlds. I returned to my quiet home, the one he once shared, the one that now felt mine alone. I showered, washed away blood and dirt and 7 years of illusions. I made tea. I sat by the window listening to rain settle the earth. For the first time since his death, I breathed without drowning. The next day, I packed his remaining belongings, not in grief, but in acceptance. A box for memories, a box for truth, a box for letting go. I donated most of it. Kept one photo, our wedding day. Not because it was a lie, but because it was real to me. Every smile, even if built on secrets, still shaped who I became. Weeks passed. Life softened. I joined a support group, met people who carried their own ghosts. I laughed again, small at first, then louder. I planted flowers. I painted the bedroom walls a new color. Little by little, I chose myself. Because surviving betrayal is one thing, healing from it is another, and I was learning both. Months have passed since that day. The day I saw my dead husband alive in a grocery store aisle and followed him into a truth I never could have imagined. Sometimes I still wake up expecting to hear his footsteps in the hallway or feel the dip of the mattress beside me. Trauma has a way of echoing long after the sound is gone. But I no longer cling to those ghosts. I no longer check the driveway hoping he'll appear. I don't stalk houses or refresh old photos or search for meaning in things that already ended. I don't know where Daniel is now. Maybe he's still running. Maybe he started another life somewhere new, far from danger, far from me. Or maybe the past finally caught up with him. I may never know. And that uncertainty used to terrify me. Now it just exists. A closed chapter. A scar that doesn't hurt when touched anymore. Sometimes I drive past the blue shutter house. It looks different now. New curtains, a fresh coat of paint. Elena and her son play in the yard sometimes, laughter drifting through the street like nothing ever happened. She doesn't know I was the ghost at her door once. She doesn't know how close her world came to shattering like mine did. And I don't plan to tell her. She has her own story, her own healing, her own innocence to protect. Some truths serve purpose, others only destroy. I learned something important through all of this, something I hope someone listening might need to hear. You can love someone deeply and still not know who they truly are. You can grieve someone who's alive. You can lose everything you thought was real and still rebuild. Pain is not the end of a life. Sometimes it's the beginning of a new one. My mornings look different now. I open the blinds. I water my plants. I sit at the table with coffee and sunlight instead of memories and shadows. I write in journals. Talk to friends. Slowly, I'm learning to trust again, not others first, but myself, my intuition, my worth, because betrayal didn't break me. It revealed me. And if you take anything from my story, let it be this. Closure isn't something others give. It's something we choose for ourselves. I survived a love built on secrets. I buried a man who wasn't dead. And in a strange way, he gave me life back. Not through honesty, but through the truth I hunted myself. Not by staying, but by leaving, even if he never meant to. Sometimes losing someone is the only way to find yourself again. Did you like my story? Please like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I want to know how far this story of mine travels. And my final thought, the one sentence that carries everything I learned. Not every goodbye is a tragedy. Some are directions toward who we're meant to become.